The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Turning a Moment into a Movement. And I am your host, J Love. Thank you for joining us. I represent the Justice for Gerard movement. And Gerard is my son who was wrongfully convicted of a crime that he didn't do. He went to prison. He served 2 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections, all around innocent. And And now he's home, so we're grateful for that. But because of his story and because of that journey that I had with him, I met so many other people who had a loved one that was wrongfully convicted. I met people who had been wrongfully convicted, and because of the stories were similar or sound the same, it just moved me to create this movement, turning a moment into a movement. And so we come here on Fridays to talk about wrongful convictions, injustice, community accountability, and everything, just to have these conversations to educate our community, motivate. And so, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. I want to say hello to everyone who's watching on YouTube, everyone who's watching on Twitter, and everyone who will probably watch this later on today. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. So today we're going to do things a little bit differently. We have some great guests that's going to come in and speak with us. And I'm going to bring in the guests first, let them introduce themselves, and then I'll let in our panel members. But our first guest is, I just love her. I met her through Revatia, Attorney Payne. Let me bring her in. Greetings, Attorney Payne. How are you?
I am well. It's so good to see you.
It's great seeing you. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has.
But I know you've been busy. So introduce yourself and tell everyone what it is that you do.
Well, my name is Dorphine Payne, and I reside in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where I am an attorney, a practicing attorney. I have been that for years, and um, I'm also deeply involved in justice and justice for our people, justice for our indigent defendants. I had a call on my life to not come out of law school and make a lot of money, but to come out of law school and do what I'm here for. And what I'm here for is to represent people who couldn't necessarily afford me otherwise. And I'm pleased to do that and continue to do that. As a part of that, I'm also engaged in. I'm a participant in community engagement. This year, I'm president of the Kalamazoo Indigent Defense Board of Directors, co-president. And that means that I'm co-president of the firm that oversees indigent defense in Kalamazoo. And so and also a part of Mothers of Hope, which is an organization engaged and involved in Mothers of Hope. Women, it began as a women's movement who had been deeply involved in the system and women who were in recovery. And mothers who were in recovery and had gotten their children back, and they wanted to pass on what they knew to other women who were suffering from the same addictions. So I'm deeply involved in community engagement. Just happy to be here this evening.
I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy that we're going to have a conversation about the juvenile criminal system and also how it leads to wrongful convictions. Because and I'm going to bring on Larry Smith in a second, but as I listen to a lot of the exonerees that have been exonerated, most of them were teenagers when they went into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so the criminalization of the youth and everything that's even now presently going on with the youth, we need to pay attention because the brain science is telling us that a brain is not fully developed until 25, 26 years old.
Right.
So when you're looking at all these things that's going on, and they're mainly with younger people, are we really looking at, that part of them when we talking about, juveniles in the criminal system? So this is going to be a great conversation. I'm going to bring on Larry Smith. Hi, Larry Smith.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Miss J Love? How you doing, Attorney Delphine Payne?
I'm well. How are you, Larry Darnell Smith Jr.?
I'm doing absolutely amazing.
Introduce yourself, Larry, and let everyone know who you are.
My name is Larry Darnell Smith Jr. I was exonerated on February 4th, 2021. I served 26 years, 2 months, and 7 days in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I was exonerated out of Wayne County Conviction Integrity Unit. I am very grateful that Kim Worthy signed off on my release. And since I've been out, been just advocating on behalf of innocent people, medically frail, over sentenced, just the community at large, the youth, as you stated here, and I work in a rec center, so I interact with the youth on a daily basis. Yeah. So, member of the National Organization of Exonerated, we advocate, as I stated earlier, innocent to the J Love. I really don't be knowing what to say.
No, you do it.
We got a skating party for the children, June 17th from 5 to 8 o'clock at the Rollercade skating ring in Southwest Detroit. Oldest black-owned skating ring, family-owned in Detroit. So 100 kids get in free on the original Fat Lipper.
All right. Yeah. That's awesome. So, Larry, we're talking about the juvenile criminal system and how that can possibly lead to wrongful convictions. And you said you were incarcerated for 26 years, so you was pretty young.
18. Yeah, I was 18 when I was incarcerated. Yeah. So I'm to go into prison at that age and watch other people in there with me at 15 and 16 years old, and us have to maturate together over these years. So you see why I'm just such a strong advocate for them raising the age group to fit the science, because it's evident, it's relevant, and it's proven.
Exactly. I see, attorney. Hi, Attorney Hugo Matt.
J Love, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, look, I apologize. I'm in my mobile office right now, known as the Ford Fusion, up here where my clients are, the for real people, heart of Ypsilanti, Harriet Street, Washington, where the real people live. So I'm en route back to the main office, so I'll be signing off momentarily. Look, keep off of Michigan Ave. This is terrible. I'm telling you, they got this road so blocked up. The only way to get across the street is to be born there. You know, and it's a hell of a situation up here. Oh, AJ Love, traffic so slow. You think these people line up for government cheese? I'm telling you. Damn, traffic is slow. So anyway, I don't mean to bogart. I'm glad you can hear me. The reception is so terrible, but you know, Hugo Mack, you know who I am, J Love. Rest artists, they know who I am. I will say this before I get blocked out, before I come back in, if you don't mind. If you find yourself on Trouble Boulevard, park your ride on Mack Street. That's your hookup right there, Mack Street. hmaclaw.com. 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 That's your hookup, J Love.
Yes, that is your hookup. I'm looking for it right now. Okay, turn you back. You might as well stay on till you fall off.
Right. I'm in here with y'all.
Okay.
Hey, brother, don't don't hold my craziness against J Love. It ain't her fault. It ain't her fault. She done threatened to kick me off the show many times for acting crazy. I apologize.
I'm not gonna kick him off. So, Attorney Payne, we're gonna go back to you. In the juvenile system, when we talk about the brain science, and me and you were having a conversation the other day about that and what's going on in our communities, and what you're seeing, in the courtroom. Can you talk on that a little bit?
Well, yeah. First, I'll talk a little bit about the demographics, and I'm sure that it's not very different anywhere in the country. In Kalamazoo County, of the youth arrested, of the youth arrest, 72.1% were Black, 16.8% were white, and then they have this other category called race unknown, which is 10.9%. And I could go on and on about that, but I won't. The youth demographics in our county is 49.6% white, 34.2% Black. Now, obviously, there's a disparity in those numbers. If you can be 34.2% of a population, yet 72.1% of the youth arrests. Right. So that's glaring in and of itself. But and that's not very different than what I see in the courtroom, and probably what Attorney Mack sees as well, and probably the same kinds of demographics that Mr. Smith runs into. And with those disparities in mind, we can, we could go on and on about how many youth and what's happening with African American youth when they're pulled over. We see evidence of that on TV all the time, and how they're treated versus how white youth are treated by police officers, how they're charged and prosecuted by AGs and prosecuting attorneys, how they're sentenced in the courtroom by judges. And that speaks of structural systemic racism. It's a problem, not only there, but after they're arrested. I'm not saying that every African-American youth that's arrested is innocent. What I am saying, though, is that a lot of our youth have problems. They have issues that need to be dealt with. And the treatment of what's going on with them and trying to make determinations about what's going on with them, getting at the crux of the matter and trying to help them. There aren't any real efforts being made. So we developed that pipeline to prison tunnel that our youth are run through every day. And it's the saddest thing you've ever seen. I can see it happening with my young people, how they can get into what we call the On Track program, which is a youth residential program. How many of our kids don't get treated appropriately if they have mental health problems, or if they're victims of poverty, how that's treated with them and their families, and how they're set up to fail just by our system. I think that one of the things that we as attorneys and we as engaged organizers need to do is start looking and making demands on the system to address the needs that white youth can afford mental health treatment. A lot of our kids who are stuck in poverty can't.
Right.
A lot of them act out of desperation because they're homeless, their families are homeless, and they don't know what to do or how to get through it today. And so we run into so many problems for them, and they're going unaddressed.
Yes. I know I was looking at the stats. There was a study done for those that were exonerated, and like I think it was like maybe 63% of the cases that they looked at that was exonerees were teenage juveniles. They were juveniles when they were, convicted. And so, it talks about, how they're the most vulnerable population because they really don't understand the laws. They really don't understand their rights. They don't understand their what they should be having a conversation with their lawyers about. And also it talks about how, and then it goes back to the brain science and how that plays. And again, you're right. We're not talking about, like every one is innocent, but we're talking about there is a high percentage of juveniles in this category, and actually African American juveniles. Mm-hmm. When we just have this conversation. So Larry, as a juvenile, you were a juvenile convicted that's now an exoneree. What do you think about, what I was just saying about not understanding and all the being very vulnerable to the system?
I mean, the person who you see sitting in front of you now, this ain't not the person who I was then.
Right.
I thought when I asked for a lawyer, like, that all guard in the situation, and then to go through that process, really bumbling, because it's a bumbling situation. Mm-hmm. You intellectually, if you are capable, understanding what you read, what they saying, interacting with your lawyer to put on a proper defense to a case you don't know nothing about.
Right.
It's just so for people who still in there, I'm out. It was people who was juveniles, 18, 19 years old when I got there. So now they 30 some years or whatever. But remember now, it was people been there 20 years before I got there. Mm-hmm. 19 years old, and they still there right now.
Yeah.
When is enough enough?
Exactly. Attorney Matt. Oh, and let me unmute Attorney Matt.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, Attorney Matt.
Yeah. AJ Love, every time you mute me, I don't take it personal. I don't take it personal. I used to cry. I don't cry no more, J Love. I just want you. I'm a big enough man to admit that, J Love. So
okay.
To bear my emotions to the crowd. I'm a big enough man to admit that. Reverend T understands. She's been counseling me. So the thing of it is though, when I listen to what the brother said, and then my fellow member of the bar, all of that is so true. But you see, there's another aspect of it. Most people that are exonerees were simply in a wrong place at a wrong time. Now, there are cases where somebody was, out of state or something like that and wrongfully hooked up. But you can be innocent, just be in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong group of people and get caught up. I run into that so much because the mentality of the police that I've encountered in these 40 some odd brief years is to arrest and suspect first and ask questions later. Mm-hmm. And so once you're caught up into that system. And then, we as Black people have been systemically, in need of the most mental health treatment of any people in this country, other than perhaps Native Americans, you see. So when, as my fellow counsel was saying, we do not receive that kind of treatment and we're thrown into that mix, it's not surprising the numbers are disproportionate. The numbers that fellow counsel talked about are very similar to the numbers in Washtenaw County. Washtenaw County might be a little worse, as a matter of fact. So the fact that we see this throughout the system is absolutely a show of systemic racism. But it's a racism that we, as Black people ourselves, kind of feed into when we tend to join the majority culture and lock them up, get them away from me. I pay my taxes. I don't go breaking into houses. I don't give a damn what happens to them, because we fail to realize that could be one of our kids caught up in there. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I keep saying that same thing. So one of the keys to avoiding wrongful conviction is having a jury that reflects what you are. And all of you know the Constitution talks about peers. Well, that means people where you live, okay, in your county. It doesn't mean people that look like you. It doesn't mean people that have an ethnic heritage as you or police experience as you. It doesn't mean that. But as long as Black people tend to have this fear of serving on juries, we're going to keep having these wrongful convictions keep cascading down, and people spending 20, 30, 40 years before vindication comes, if at all.
Yes. Hey, Revertia.
Well, hello there. Hi, everybody. I'm just so excited to be here tonight. My account was hacked, so if you guys got anything, don't open it ever. Just making that a public announcement. Just blessed to be here after working with a couple of organizations this week, trying to make sure that we continue. I don't even call it a fight. I definitely don't call it a struggle. I believe that we are expanding the knowledge of who we really are. And the more that we know who we are, the more that we are aware of the power that lies within us, then the more we can go ahead and choose the right direction that we're supposed to go in. And so as the founder of the Choice Zone, I believe that right now is the time for us to come together, also ministering over at Transforming Love Community. So transformation is just a part of who I am. And J Love, I'm so glad that you have kept your commitment to your son and beyond. And I'm grateful for everybody on this platform. And if y'all give me a moment, I'm going to step outside of being Reverend Tia Littlejohn too. Hey, Mama! Mama Pain! Okay. Now I will go back to being who I am. She has always been my role model and disciplinarian. Hey, she's got some stories. We won't listen to them right now, Mama. Don't bring them up. And she is a woman who has always stood in the gap for righteousness and has been the example of that. And don't mess with her. Don't take, she might seem a little short in height. She will bite. Don't play with her. Okay. So glad to have you guys tonight, and so glad to be a part of this.
Yes.
Amen.
So, Reverend Tia, you work with a lot of young people.
Yeah.
And you see what's been going on, with the youth, the mass shooters lately been 18-year-olds. A lot of stuff that's going on that we see every night on the TV. 18, 21, that's our. And so we're talking about that, how that some of these things lead to, we're not talking about, the mass shooter, but we're just saying because our young people are so criminalized, every little thing that they do, sometimes it often leads to the path of a wrongful conviction.
Oh, yeah.
And when we have Larry Donnell Smith with us today, he's an example of, of that,
yes,
happening. So in your opinion,
You know,
Go ahead, Reverend.
Jay, I'm just so I'm so heartbroken too, because at the same time, some people are awakening. Majority or a lot of people are sleepwalking, and children. The system was designed and has been designed to criminalize us, people of color, and that mindset has been passed down. And so when we begin to criminalize each other, so it's not so much coming from outside of ourselves as it's coming from within our communities. When we've separated, you know, what I see and what I believe is that the idea of individualism has been permeated in our communities to where you're only successful if you get out of your family, if you have a disconnect, if you break away. Instead of teaching how to collaborate with one another, cooperate with one another, work together, love one another, stay together, have purpose. And then those who have been, just look at what's happening through the eye gates, the ear gates, what's being taught. What's being taught. And so yes, we're wrongfully convicted. Yes, we also believe that we are wrong. The children already believe they're wrong. And that's the thing right there. They're going to run when they see the police, because they did a study and they said 7-year-olds already believed they were wrong, not because they did anything, but because of their makeup, because they were born African American.
Right. So yeah, so we have to work to change that narrative, and which is, an everyday process, because we are indoctrinating with so much stuff every day. We get fed so much information, through the social media, through the news, through the newspapers, and so when you get the things, the programming already criminalizes you. Like Jane was saying, when you have, these numbers, they're like unbelievable, and it's not that, so when we're listening to it, we're not hearing numbers. We're just seeing crime reports or whatever. But when you dig into it, the numbers are really unbelievable.
And when you just see numbers, you don't see people.
Right.
We're looking at numbers all day long, but we're not seeing people. And so, in a way, we have dehumanized people and replaced it with a number, and made it not significant, because it's just a number. But when you put faces and people and families and mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, when they see people, then it becomes, if we saw how many people and saw actual numbers in people, because our society is, a lot of visualization is happening. So the more human we can make it, it's not believable right now until it happens to you, until it happens to your family, until you see people.
Right. So how could we be more proactive with changing this narrative? Attorney
Well,
Payne.
tell us.
Well, I know as an attorney, I listened to Larry uh, make the point of uh, you know, young people not understanding their rights and not knowing what they're doing when they're going through the system. And unless somebody cares enough to take the time to listen to them and hurt and uh, hear them, especially attorneys when they're meeting with their clients. It's important. It's important that we hear what they're saying and not just try to rush through and bring the case to some kind of conclusion and allow the courts and the system to rush us, but to actually take the time to because our kids have a story to tell us if we're listening hard enough, and especially attorneys shouldn't be doing what Tia is accusing the system of doing, which is just looking at them as another client or as another number, and not as a person and with a family and with feelings and thoughts and beliefs and issues, but really looking at them as human beings and not bad kids, but kids with that are facing tremendous issues every single day. Um, we need to take the time, and the court needs to take its time and make decisions based upon what's in this child's best interest. Um, we don't do that. We rush them through like in an assembly line. Uh, that's a problem for our kids. And the other is when we pay attention to them. One of the people that I rely on a great deal is my expert witness. She is an incredibly impressive psychologist, and she and I collaborate a lot on cases, but she also works with the mental health portion of our juvenile system, and she brought up to me this week the problems with how our youth are treated, and even in our mental health court, they need serious help, and they're not getting it. Some of them, especially repeat offenders, we need to look at why they're doing that. Because if they're doing it 10 and 15 times, there's something serious going on there. There are a lot of issues, a lot of ways to attack this. Um, and finally, one of the ways to attack it is we got to find real remedies for these kids when we put them in residential placement. Real remedies, not just throwing them in there and hiring some guy or some woman to come in and get paid to run them through some kind of little program. They need real assistance, and not cookie cutter, but real assistance if we want to make a difference. Last year, I found an organization called AHA that was doing, they were a group of culturally competent therapists that had formed together a group, and they're from all over the country. They're from California, New Jersey, Georgia, all over the country. And they are willing to, during COVID, they were willing to they started doing online therapy with children and families. And I asked them if they would please take on two of my clients who were in the juvenile home and supposedly in a residential treatment program, but weren't getting any help. And I went to the court. I filed a motion. I got the court to agree to let them do this online therapy. The juvenile home fought me every step of the way. And the online program fought me every step of the way. And they continually filed motions objecting and refusing to let these kids do their treatment online. The courts, fortunately, every time we went to court, the court would deny their objection and order them to let these kids do this treatment. One of them recently got out, and the program, when it came online and we did a graduation thing for him, they said he was a rock star, that he did really, really well. And so we had a lot of hope for him. But while he was inside, he kept telling them that the program kept saying to him, no, you don't need this. You don't need this. They kept saying it to both of the kids. One of them just succumbed to the pressure and just finally said, no, I don't want to do it. But the other kid said, no, my attorney said that I could talk to a Black counselor. I could talk to a culturally competent therapist. That's what I want to do. And he and I fought through that together. And so and his mother, grandmother, actually helped fight through that together. But you need that kind of commitment just to get them what they need. And they must have filed 5 motions. We fought 5 motions in just an 8-month period. 5 motions to keep that from happening. So I think that there are a lot of things that can be done. Like Tia says, if we come together as a group, I mean, these therapists came together to try to make a difference all over the country and joined with us to try to fight for these kids. We have, it can't be just me or you or you or you. It's got to be a lot of all of us fighting together.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that we can do. We just got to reach out to competent therapists and say, will you help? And find a way to make it happen. We have to reach out to grant providers. A grant provider gave us the funds to fund that program. We had 27 families in that program for that 8-month period of time. And and the grant money ran out, but we have to reach out to funders to help us to fund things like that. There's help out there. We just got to tap into it.
Right. So Larry, in your opinion, what can we do to change the narratives? I know you're doing stuff with the youth.
Let me see. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
Y'all can hear me? Right. Yeah. I mean, just be active. Put your best foot forward. Oftentimes people tell me about what won't work, what's going on, why it's going on, but never what it is that they done to help in the process to make the community safer. Not just here where we from in Michigan, but across the land. I interact with rec centers across the country. I talk to people who put on programming in order for us to come together and strike out together in unison. Not all formerly incarcerated, but a lot of us are. And then we have people such as yourselves who experienced the process through loved ones and through working, and you can feel the empathy. Where's us across the country? And that's what I say. Each one of us got a special role. And when we figure out our role, it's about being active. It might be making a phone call. It might be saying free Kinsu. It might be saying prison shouldn't be a big business. But it's to do something and be active. And if you don't know what to do with wrongful convictions is concerned, then come out and support with the children. Because what I tell you, if we could touch one, that's one person we possibly can detour away from crime. I talk to children daily. 5 days a week I work. And I couldn't tell you how many of them would say, hey, yeah, my daddy was locked up. He did 2 years. Or my daddy was locked up. When I was 3, he came out when I was 10. You know, these type of statements. And for some of them, it's just prison. And for other ones, And then when they be like, man, you did that much time. And then I just tell them the truth. Like, that ain't what you want. That ain't what it is. Please trust me. And I just build with them. So for each person in society, if you can just embrace one good quality out of yourself and impart it in somebody else, then that's that very first step to taking that turnaround that we want to stop wrongful convictions, because people will be moving in empathy and love versus pain.
Right. Yeah, love. I was that's the key. I don't know, I'm getting let me see. All right, yeah. So I was getting some feedback from Larry. But yeah, love is the key. Um when we talk about that working, everybody find their space. It's it's something for all of us to do. We just can't all wait for somebody else to do the work. Like you said, Attorney Payne, it's something for all of us to do. And especially when it comes to the babies, because they are our future. Reverend T, are you saying something? Because I don't
Well,
know.
you know what? I talk all during the show, okay? Because sometimes I'm feeling things, so my mouth would just be going. That's how come I mute myself. But yes, I was saying yes, we have to work together. And I was reminded not long ago. My father and I, our team of coaches, went to Texas. We went to a youth detention camp, and a youth detention. And I'm thinking that these children are going to eventually come out, but they were there as placement until they age, till they become 18 to go into prison. And I was, so we ran a basketball camp. It was a 1-day camp. Out of all the years that I have coached basketball, that was probably the best camp. That 1 day, the youth who participated in it got rewarded to be able to participate. And here they ran the drills perfectly, like I have been coaching them for years. I wanted to take them and put them on my AAU team at the time, and just take them around the country. But I saw so many children who had so much hope, and to know that so much was in them, so much potential. And when I left there, I'm thinking, well, when are they going to get out? And the person who was the liaison for us to do that work there said, well, no, most of them will be going. It's just a holding place. And I mean, it makes me tear up now, today, because it was just a holding place for them. And I talked to somebody from Texas not long ago, and was talking about what's happening. And that person, that person told me, that person said, well, it's just business. It's just business. If we don't understand today that that system has taken the place and has allowed slavery to continue, if we do not understand that today, I question the intelligence of many leaders who are at the helm of this country. You're holding these children, and then they're going on to prison so that your company can make money. It's time for us to take our children back. It's time for us to teach truth to our children. It's time for us to make sure that they have everything that they need so that they can fully, for their potential to be fully realized. There is no reason for our children not to be able to read, to write fluently, and to progress and to take on trades. Whatever it is they're calling, that's calling them forward.
Mhm.
It is time for us to realize what is the purpose that that child came to express in this earth,
Mm-hmm.
and how can I help him or her achieve it?
Yeah. Yes, Mary. Hi, Edward.
Hello, how are you all doing?
We're great.
Hey,
How about
Edward.
yourself? Introduce yourself.
And first, I apologize. I thought I may be able to utilize my internet in the car, but I've been having weak connection, so that didn't happen in my automobile. But I'm in my house or spot right now. My name is Edward Sanders. I go by the name of Baraka. I'm a former juvenile lifer without parole. I served 43 and a half years in Michigan adult prisons. I went to prison at the age of 17 in 1975. I returned home in 2017. And despite the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court had asked them to take a second chance, and despite the fact that they created a statute to do that, they did it with some resentment and throwed in a monkey wrench that said that even the good time that we had acquired while serving the time, we couldn't have that. These are the same people that said that we wasn't redeemable, but any credit that we may have earned for well behavior, we couldn't have it. So even after coming home after 43 and a half years, I had to persuade the ACLU of Michigan, Deborah LaBelle, and the University of Michigan. I believe they solicited help from, and they took the case to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, and the Sixth Circuit Court agreed that it was an ex post facto law, that you could not take and say that a person couldn't have something that they had already earned. So we are talking about wrongful convictions of youthful persons, and they have been the most vulnerable in terms of our population in being put in that pipeline to prison, whether from the county jail or from the school playground itself. I know of no state within the United States, and I repeat it, there isn't a single state within the United States that have a program that has prep attorneys on representing children in adult system. No attorney do I know of got that type of training. And why they didn't take and gather together as a bar association and say this is a real concern that we have been given children to represent, and we have no training in taking and representing a child in adult court system. Instead, they went along with the process like sheep and lambs. And so they are just as guilty, their hands are just as dirty as those of the prosecutors. Most of these attorneys in the criminal justice system are used to taking and persuading adults to take and forfeit the right to a trial of their peers. They are not necessarily, even though they don't go to law school to do that either. There is no law school to teach you how to take and prep your client to plead guilty. But this is a preoccupation. The evidence for this is the fact that over 97% of those that are convicted in the state system, in the federal system, is convicted by guilty plea. And the states is just barely behind that, somewhere around 94, 95% of those that are taken through the state system are convicted by way of guilty plea. And so now here you have children who the laws say cannot participate in making contracts are thrown in the adult system and supposed to negotiate their way out of that. And you hear the prosecutors even today saying, we gave them an opportunity to plead to a lesser charge. We gave them an opportunity to plead guilty to second degree, and they didn't do it. It is ludicrous that attorney would take and say something like that. You know, a child brain is such, and the reason that children so often get hit by cars, automobiles, is because their brain does not perceive the depth of the road the way an adult does. Their brain is like that of an animal, not to take and compare a human being to an animal, but the reason animals tend to take and get hit by automobiles and other objects is that they don't perceive the depth because their brain is still like that of an adolescent. They don't perceive the depth, and children don't perceive the depth of the reality of the environment that they live in. And these peoples with these juristic degrees, they are taking and complaining even to this day. They saying it's only their fault. It's only the children's fault. We gave them an offer to plead guilty. Well, that's what you did with adults, and that seemed to be quite successful. But it's not successful with children. The children are the only ones in the criminal justice system that said, bring the trial on. Bring the trial on. You say that you had the best judicial system in the world, then you had an opportunity to prove it, and the only population in America that you took and attempted to prove it with was children. You didn't take and prove it with adults because adults cop out. They tend to cop out, but that didn't happen with the children. So you wind up taking and convicting and sentencing almost 3,000 children in America into the prison system, and they all pretty much were predominantly black children. They all were pretty much predominantly black children. And I don't allow anyone with a law degree to take and escape it and only point their finger at the prosecutors. I don't allow any psychiatrists or psychologists to take and escape it. They all took and participated. All this was adult abuse of our nation's children. You're just as guilty as those priests in the church that took and molested children. This is the continuous trauma that we see in this country by adults with children. And it tend to take and happen in the societies, and it tend to happen with the parties that are the most educated and the parties that we tend to take and expect the most responsibility from. You all are guilty. You all are guilty. There in Oakland County, there was a young man that I was in prison with. This young man took and ran around the neighborhood and told people he had killed a person. They put this young kid in prison out of Oakland County, and then they subsequently arrested 2 other people and charged them with the crime. They said, no, we didn't commit the crime. You already convicted and sentenced a kid that said he done it. You know what the Oakland County prosecutor said? He didn't kill anybody. He only said he did it. They say he only said he did. And they sentenced that young man, that child, to prison, and he took a plea to a second-degree murder. He only got out because the Supreme Court ordered an evidentiary hearing. They didn't order his release. They ordered an evidentiary hearing, and he was too angry to get out of the prison system. He turned around and then took another cop to get out of the system, even though the Oakland County prosecutor said that this man didn't kill anybody. So my position is, you got a conviction and innocent project in Oakland County now. Go back and tell that kid to come back through there and release that child. That child is not guilty. He's not guilty, but the guilt is on Oakland County's end. And they shouldn't wait on that child to come to them and file a petition for his innocence. They should go to that young man. His name is Julio Rodriguez. If you want to pretend like you don't know him, his name is Julio Rodriguez. Okay, that's what I got to say about the judicial system and youth. There's a lot of abuse that's going on with kids in this nation. They're the most vulnerable. We tend to take and want to look somewhere over in Brazil and say they got children living on the street and prostituting. We are prostituting our children. If we are not doing it in the church, we are doing it in the damn courthouse. And you're all are guilty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I got a voice now. I'm no longer that 17-year-old kid that the police took and drug and threw it off in the damn penitentiary. And the first time the parole board looked at my file, they say, we know why you here. You here because unlike the other people in your case, you didn't talk. They say you the only one in your case didn't talk. That's why you here. That's what the parole board told me the first time that I had a parole board review in 7 years on a 43-year bit. The man told me, give me 2 years ticket free and I will constantly advocate for your commutation. It never happened. I didn't get out of prison for 43 years later and I still haven't been exonerated. Okay, so that's how this nation treat children. If you want to look at my record, it's still in the parole board review. The first damn review. Well, the guy that took and said it subsequently became the chairman of the parole board after the damn review. So it's not like he didn't have the authority and responsibility to do it. And he told me, I've seen numerous of cases like yours. So it's not just about me. And that was William Hudson. That was William Hudson that later became the chairman of the parole board. When I tried to call him on it, he told me, I don't remember it, but it's in my damn parole board file. Thank you very much. I'm no longer that 17-year-old child that you drugged and thrown in the penitentiary. I got a voice now. In fact, less than 3 years of my release, I went to the University of Michigan and got me a master's degree in social work. Also learned how to take and use my damn voice. So I'm not apologizing for it. Hello.
Reverend Tia, go ahead.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness. And thank you for your voice. Thank you for your voice. I just want to say that if you don't know, they have it recorded that there are 60,000 youth average under the age 18 that are incarcerated in juvenile jails and prisons in the United States on any given day.
Yeah,
Daily.
there was a judge who eventually, I know you guys probably heard this story and I can't recall his name right now, but this judge was getting paid to send kids to prison.
I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at all you guys touched on it, the money, even in the comments, the money, it pays to put these kids in there. You know, the programs, Attorney Payne, when you was talking about the program was fighting you, you know, because they was in fear probably of losing that money, you know, with the kids going through some kind of different therapy than the one that they was supposedly providing and getting paid for. And so even in some states, they had to change the laws, you know, because these police officers would interrogate the kids and lie, you know, to them. And so in some states, they had to change that law where you can't lie to kids anymore. You can't tell them that, you know, such and such said you did it, you know, so, you know, and that's a history of doing that. You know, even look at the story of the Central Park 5. You know, that story is how those young men, that the system, the police used their interrogation tactics to say this one said you did it and this one said you did, you know, and really railroad those kids to prison, innocent kids to prison for rape. And so, you know, they struggle with that, you know, and although now they're free and they're doing great things, you know, all over the United States, that system really prey upon kids. and put them in prison for things they knew that they didn't do, but they just wanted to solve a case, or just wanted, to get the limelight or that career move or whatever it is, to get that case solved so they can move on, not caring that you're ruining children lives. Attorney Payne.
Yeah, I I agree, and two things. One, no matter what cases they have and what courts say, they lie to not just kids, but to everybody. Police officers lie. They lie to the court. They lie to everybody. But it is also a violation of a kid's rights for a police officer to talk to a youth outside of the presence of their parent. They do it. I don't know about every place else, but here in my county, they do it all the time. And we constantly have to file motions to suppress, or get the prosecution just to throw that out because you can't use that. It's a kids' rights are violated every single time they're arrested, and parents, even when you even if we educate the parents, and we've tried to do that so that the parent can effectively advocate for their child prior to whenever there's police contact. That's important because a child's brain doesn't comprehend what you try to tell them. Do you know how many times I've told a kid, don't talk, don't talk? They don't understand that. When when a police officer stops them, what is the first thing a kid does when they get in trouble? They start explaining, or they deny, or they say something, and it eventually gets them into trouble. And I don't care how many times you tell them don't talk, they still talk. And I have repeat offenders that when I see them again, I look at the police report and I say, "Did you say that?" I mean, but they do because they're kids, and because police violate their rights. No parent should put up with a police officer talking to their kids without them being present. No attorney should allow that. And so those are ongoing, existing problems. The brother is absolutely correct, and unless defense attorneys step up and hold the police accountable every single time, it's never going to stop because it's a culture. It's the culture of the police department. It doesn't matter what the policy is, doesn't matter what the law is, it doesn't matter what the rules are. If a judge puts up with that, if a prosecutor charges in spite of knowing that they did that, this and their defense attorney allows it, the system will never change.
Yeah.
But you have to bring it every time, and then you have to get it appealed every time. You have to send up an appeal every single time, and stress the system. Put a stress on the system. Hold the system accountable.
Well, Attorney Payne, adults don't even know not to talk.
I know it. I do know that.
They talk too. But, when we're talking about kids, you're raised to, if someone in authority, your teacher, you're raised to, talk or be respectful. And so when I just recently, we talked about this maybe a couple of weeks ago when we saw this, I think it was on PBS or whatever, but it was a case of a young juvenile. I think he was like maybe 14 years old. He was accused of a murder. And, the police interrogated him with his mother in another room. And they were talking about how these police officers are trained They go through all this kind of training to get you to, and so a kid doesn't stand a chance in that situation when you got somebody that has been through training and all kinds of psych classes and all kinds of things that know how to word to get you to say something that you probably shouldn't be saying, but also to have not even have a parent there of an underage kid. And then we ain't even gonna get to like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's still, and those minds are still not developed. But we're just, for this conversation, we're talking about, they're professionally trained and you don't have the parents there. And then this kid was actually convicted of it. He won an appeal, but I think he probably served 2 years in prison for something he didn't do. And he did end up suing the city and the police department and the prosecutor's office and all, because they all did this terrible injustice to this child. But this happens, like you said, all over, every day, all over the United States. Mm-hmm. Attorney Matt?
Well, the only solution is to attack this, and people have said this all throughout this broadcast, from every angle. There are attorneys out there, and I'm proud to say one of them, that I'm one of them, and I believe Sister Councilman Kalamazoo is one of them also, that have been through so many wars, so many wars, and so many marks on my armor. It's my armor lost its shine a long time ago. It's been beat up so damn much. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that there are attorneys out there, and I don't want to say our numbers are dying out. I don't want to accept that, because I try to pass on my belief with younger attorneys, particularly minority attorneys, aspiring attorneys, that the only thing that a Black attorney cannot have taken from them is their integrity. A Black attorney can give their integrity away, but it cannot be taken. Okay. And the thing of it is that everybody who's taken that oath, okay, to the Constitution and to protect the poor and the underprivileged has got a sacred responsibility to live up to that. But unfortunately, when we have individuals, and there's been some minor changes, perhaps in Oakland County and to an extent Washtenaw County, but when prosecutors get elected, they far too often view their jobs as one of supporting the police and being in league with the police. But you have some people who run for prosecutor, and I'm one of them, that make it very clear. The job as a prosecutor is to be a minister of justice.
That's right.
A minister of justice. That almost sounds biblical to me. A minister of justice, And the thing of it is that when you take that oath, some people buy it off. They can be bought off with a judgeship or an appointment to a prosecutor's office, or getting in good with the police and try to pad their, a civil practice. I mean, I've been threatened, tempted, promised it all. And I don't just speak for myself, I speak for others like me. My integrity is not for sale. So there are a group of attorneys out there still fighting a good fight, still swinging for the fences, against astronomical odds. And I'm going to tell you this, one of the astronomical odds I face is in my own community. Because we have become so Americanized that we actually think everything red, white, and blue in the flag covers us like a blanket. And people don't understand. Mm-hmm. When it comes to people that look like me and most of y'all on this panel, all y'all on this panel right here, that flag ain't bigger than a postage stamp. See, trying to cover me up at night, protect me from being cold and my rights. So I guess for me, when I listen to the topic about kids and I look at how many black kids I've seen go through the system, you know, it's almost like I'm a I'm I'm a fisherman, trying to take fish out of a big net, but I only have two arms, and the net is so damn big, and there's so few people willing to help, So as a lawyer, it's easier, believe me, to go along to get along. It really is, because these judges can be very vindictive. Yes, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. It's true. They can be very vindictive, and a lot of these lawyers are concerned about, well, damn, I don't want to piss this judge off. I got to come in front of him on some other cases. I got my civil practice here, and and so and police are the same way. They know who they can talk to and who they can cut side deals with. They know, and they know attorneys that they simply cannot do that with. So, and the problem is, you have people in the defense bar that are willing to cut side deals themselves. So it's like I'm not only fighting the enemy in front of me, I'm fighting people that are behind me, okay, that are collaborating. I see it all the time in the courtroom. So it's a hell of a fight, but a fight we can't afford to give up on, and a fight we damn sure can't afford to lose.
Exactly.
Amen.
Edward.
In the midst of my rage, I would take and make some policy proposals, and that is that I would encourage members of the bar, and not only members of the bar, and when I say that, we're talking about attorneys, but also mental health workers. The two professions, and when you say mental health workers, it covers a large spectrum of professions and paraprofessionals. But they all need to come together, and they need to take and petition that when children, they need to petition a standard that needs to be met when children are faced with the judicial system. And they have abrogated their moral duty as well as that of their profession. It's not just simply a moral duty, but it's also that of their profession. And I think Dr. King already addressed that issue about being silent. You're part of the problem as opposed to being part of the solution. Many attorneys believe themselves to be competent in everything, and this is why there are so many people in prison, because that belief isn't founded on any reality. The prosecutor's office normally take and come forth with all sorts of experts. They have a budget to do that. Attorneys tend not to have that kind of budget. I understand that. But very few of them even ask for expert witnesses. Very few of them even ask the court to give them the revenue that is available to even consult with experts that would assist them. Those few attorneys that have done it have been game changers. One of them is Brian Stevenson. He took and not only used his legal skills, but he took and did a cross discipline with neuroscience. And as a result, he took and disrupted this practice of putting people on death row that were mentally ill, or putting children in prison for life without the possibility of parole, whether they were homicide or non-homicide. Because remember, everybody, the media and everybody is focusing on the children that had committed homicide, but there were children that were serving life without parole that didn't even commit homicide. They just simply did a damn parole violation or probation violation. That's Graham versus Florida. The young kid only violated his probation. The prosecutors and them wanted the judge to show him the lesson, but they took and said, not that, and the judge didn't hear him. And even the U.S. Supreme Court said, how did this get all the way up here? How did nobody down below correct this? No one below corrected this. And I'm saying to attorneys in this country and to mental health workers, you need to get together as a profession and come up with an agreed standard. Our politicians is not going to do that. You need to do it as a profession and say, this is how we believe, based upon what we understand, how children should be treated if they are brought into this system. Not that you necessarily have to agree that they should be brought in that system, but if they're gonna be brought in that system, you guys need to take and advocate a standard of review because we have a different medical standard of like incompetency and or competency period. We have a different legal standard and a different medical standard, and they don't jive. And the community need to say something in that regards. They need to say something in that regards. Here we have a formal slave plantation. This is unconscionable. This is unconscionable. We have a formal slave plantation that had the largest population of black children that was sentenced to life as juvenile, life without the possibility of parole. Angola is a formal slave plantation. And so you think I really give a damn about African American attorneys arguing about the fact that they lost the recorder's court? Well, what the hell was you doing when you had the majority there? It didn't matter to you when you allowed your own population out of Wayne County to be sent up in the UP and didn't take and allow them the prison gerrymandering, where they took your resources, your taxes during the census for 10 years. When they take your census, when they count somebody, that count for 10 years. And this has been going on in excess of the last 50 years. So you haven't been representing that population well in the first damn place. So I can give a damn that they took the recorder's court from you. You know, we still taking and arguing about black people not being able to be represented on a jury. So I can give a damn about you losing the recorder's court. You didn't represent us while you were on there. Okay? You didn't represent. And that's why I can't put my head around it when formal prisoners come out and get behind these people running for office. They're the same damn ones that put you in prison. They're the same ones that took away your opportunity to get education. Okay? I graduated with the largest group of prisoners in Jackson in Spring Arbor College, which is a 4-year college. It was so many of us graduating because the Democrats and the Republicans, Bill Clinton, that crime bill that our president bragged about, and the former Democratic president bragged about, where they took away the opportunity for people to take and get education while they're in prison. And when I got out, guess where I got a job at? America. And guess they threw me out because they said Bill Clinton got in that organization that he created, that a person that formerly been incarcerated can't even come back to his damn community and make a damn contribution to his community. So not only did I get kicked out of college while I was in prison because of their damn policies, I couldn't even take and come back and serve my damn community. Okay? So that's something to think about. I'm not an unconscientious person that was put inside of that system. I'm not one. And I'm going to use my voice. And I say to those of you and the African American mental health workers and African American members of the bar, quit talking about prison gerrymandering if you're just taking and trying to get your damn seat back. It's not about your damn seat. It's about the resources that's been taken out of the community. When you take and misappropriate the census, that affects where hospitals are built. That affects where schools are built, damn it. That affects where supermarkets are. That affects where homes are in the community. It's more than you taking and getting a damn office or competing with the other damn political party for a position. It represents money. So when we talk about black women not being able to have proper care for their children and so forth, it was a result of, yes, our beautiful black judges that took and sent all those black bodies not only to prison, but they had no problem that they went up north to the UP. Okay? They went up north to the UP to where the state was able to take and use them to bargain with the peoples in the UP not to take and recede. When they was talking about receding from Michigan, creating another state independent of Michigan, they used us, those black bodies, mostly from Wayne County, to negotiate to stay part of Michigan. We'll send you these bodies, these black bodies, and you can count them on your census. So that's the type of representation we got. And I can give a damn that you're no longer sitting on the court that's called the recorder's court. You probably shouldn't be sitting on any damn court. Thank you.
Yes. Was you saying something, Revertia?
You know what? He's always telling the truth. That's one thing. And I'm so grateful that he did not come out and become silent. Because a lot of times people are moving according to their fear.
Yeah.
And the fear, if we don't say anything, the fear is that we could just disappear. That we can no longer go according. What are we afraid of?
Right.
There's so much happening now that there's no need for us to fear anything. And I think attorney Hugo Mack has said last time how he wasn't afraid anymore. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. And at the end of the day, I want my life to say that, you know, she spoke the truth.
Right.
She stood for righteousness.
Yeah.
You know, and I want righteousness now. You can't buy me or sell me on a righteousness that's going to come later in the by and by.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And I that's where I'm at, is that right now in this United States, and even though they didn't mean for it to be for us, even if they did write laws and make these statutes so that they did not represent us, it's already written.
Right.
And so they gotta come through now on what they have written.
Right.
They spoke it, they wrote it, it is so. Now how it's going to evolve, I can't tell you exactly, but I know that it is my expectation.
Right. Larry?
I was just listening to Edward, the Reverend, and I just, everything they said, just resolute on the experience, not only as being a person in that place, but since I've been out of that place and being in this country. The expectations for our country, the Constitution, people are always talking about it. I'm going to be on 10. Constitution didn't serve me no justice. The Anti-Effective Death Penalty Act in this country. Oh yeah, it's killing juveniles. It's killing regular civilians who get locked up for crimes they commit. It's killing people who did commit crimes. Like, this is making people terrorists on their own grounds right here on our American soil. And then when we assaulted by the police in our communities, we smacked with wrongful convictions. Then you got a union board stepping up like, oh yeah, it was like basically like it's nothing. But in reality, these lives are something. Our experience are something, and that's why I applaud. I genuinely applaud Edward for not letting nobody take his voice. When I went to prison, they told me I could forget my name, but don't forget my number. So when people start saying numbers, automatically it clicked to that prison number, and then I snap back like I'm Larry Darnell Smith Jr. But for our country as a whole, with these rules that they got up there, I tell people, don't just vote for somebody because they look cool. Don't vote for somebody because they experienced. Why don't you check out their politics and where they're going to place us at if we put them in office? These things are important. And I just want to say thank y'all for having me on here. Thank y'all for sharing this information with the public. And I hope that to see y'all young people at the skating ring in Southwest Detroit on the 17th of this month. 100 students get in free on the original Fat Leopard, a diaper donation. And like I say, Please, Gretchen Whitmore, please save Kensu's life. At what point is enough enough? It's coming from a person who spent 27 years in prison for a crime they ain't commit. At what point is enough enough? And thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Attorney Payne?
You know, I appreciate people who come out and activate, because it is easy to try to go away, and it is easy to become institutionalized when you're in there, and just come out and try to disappear. It's more difficult to come out and become an activist because you could be a target, and that's a problem. But I appreciate the brothers coming out and working and mentoring. I mentoring is probably some of the most important things that you can do, especially after you've been inside. So many of these brothers, there was this narrative going on for a lot of years that was a badge of courage, that was a badge of honor, to go in and do your time and come out, and dudes that came back out, you know, they looked up to you. You know, the little brothers in the street looked up to you, thought it was a good thing. I like the idea that brothers come out and tell the truth. That wasn't a place, that's not a thing of honor. It's a thing of dishonor for those who did this to me. I like brothers that come out and are willing to mentor these kids and say, this is not where you want to go. This is not what you want to do. I appreciate them so much because so many of my clients need that, to hear that kind of conversation. So I appreciate you being invited here tonight as well, and everything that's been said. I think that Attorney Mack is right. We probably do have a lot of dents on our armor and have been trying to fight, but it does tire you out. And some days I think I'm going forward and going all day just by the grace of God, because that's the only place I can get that much strength for that day. So I thank God for that, but I thank God for all of the warriors out here that are doing everything they can do to make a difference, to make a change. Congratulations, Mr. Saunders, on your degree and for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you, you guys. This was an awesome conversation. We just need to have more conversations like this because for most of us, it's just a passing thought when you hear about somebody's kid being locked up. But, you know, before COVID, we saw so many videos of little children being dragged out of schools by the police and elementary kids, you know, and so the age is getting younger and younger. It's not 18, it's not 17, it's not 15, it's 9 and 10-year-olds now. So we had to have these conversations to awaken ourselves and our community and to understand these kids are our future. And if we don't do what we need to do to protect them, then the future is going to be pretty, you know, bleak for them. So it's our responsibility as the elders, as the elders, to older ones, to initiate these conversations, to talk with our family members, to reach out to these kids, you know, be your own family activist, activate your family, you know, it starts at home. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Attorney Hugo Matt. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we leave?
I just want to say, don't ever ever stop the fight, you know. And I agree with what my sister counsel said, by the grace of God, because God has put a force in sight of every liberator, every person for justice. Don't ever stop the fight, because I'm telling you, we may not all live to see the day, but we can all throw a block for somebody. And that day it's got to come. It's got to come. As long as I see 5 other people here willing to be in that fight, that day's gonna come, you know. So we're gonna do it together.
Yes. Thank you, Attorney Hugo Matt. So until next week, I want to thank you guys for joining me. If you want to learn more about the Justice for Gerard movement, go to change.org, read the story, sign the petition, share it. A wrongful conviction can happen to anyone at any time. It could be you, it could be a family member. Listen to these stories, share these stories, so you can understand how easy it is. We talked about it. You could be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and next thing you know, you're convicted and in prison. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Turning a Moment into a
Movement.